Both of these items were found in the wood pile at the dump. Old piece of wood that looked like it might have been a door off of something, and a pedestal with a round cutout on top. We're going to blend these together and upcycle it into something beautiful. This project is going to be perfect to use up all the tail end of a bunch of paint. And I'm going to incorporate some of my salt wash paint into this project also. Now I want to attach these two pieces together, so I got out my brad nailer and I nailed that pedestal onto that square piece of wood. There's not a better feeling than being able to take something that was discarded or garbage and turn it into something beautiful again. This actually doesn't even look that bad as is, but we're going to give it a really chippy finish. I've taken it outside and I've got a little bit of this turquoise blue spray paint left, so I'm going to give that whole piece a light coat using up the rest of that spray paint. Now I'm going to use a few different painting techniques. The first one is, while this spray paint is still wet and tacky, I got out my pickling salt and I sprinkled it into that wet spray paint, and on the base I just kind of threw it at it because it's tacky. It will pick up that salt, and then we're just going to set it aside and let it dry completely. By adding the salt, it's going to add a chippy finish, so wherever we add paint on top of that salt, that color underneath is going to show. Now I'm going to get a little bit crazy with this piece, and now I'm adding some candle wax, and I'm just going around the outside. This is a pillar candle that I picked up at the dollar store, and you can see as I'm rubbing it on, it's bringing up some paint in some places. That's okay. That's going to give us even more of a chippy finish, and I'm just rubbing it all over, and then I'm going to sprinkle some more of that salt that I rubbed off with the candle wax on top. There's no really right or wrong way of doing this. It's just layering up colors so you can create that chippy finish. Now we're going back with some yellow spray paint on top of that salt and candle wax. If you have a collection of spray paint and paint that's been laying around for a while, this is a fantastic project to use up all of these bits and pieces. Now I had a little bit of this red paint. I mixed it into my salt wash paint recipe, and once that yellow spray paint was dry, I am just patting this salt wash paint up and down. Now you don't want to blend in this salt wash paint. You want to pat it up and down. If you incorporate that paint into the salt too much, you're not going to get that salt wash finish. So just go up and down with your paintbrush. Now this is all completely dry, and I've gotten my scraper, and we're just going to now scrape away at it. Everything is completely dry, and this is the fun part of this project. As you're scraping away, you're going to see all those colors from underneath come up, and you're going to get that chippy, salt washed finish that we're trying to achieve. It's messy, but wow, it is so worth it. Two things that I found at the dump also: a broken shovel handle and an old strainer or colander. These are really dirty, so we're going to clean them up really well, and then we're going to incorporate these two things together. I needed to cut the shovel handle so it was straight across. Very carefully with my chop saw, I took off that bottom piece of the shovel. We'll set that aside. I'll use that on another project. But now I have my handle ready. I'm going to pre-drill a hole in the bottom of that shovel. And once I have that done, I don't need to worry about drilling a hole in the strainer because it's full of holes. I'm going to get a screw. We're going to put it through one of those holes in the bottom of the strainer, and then I'm going to attach that shovel handle We want to make sure that we have it screwed in nice and tight so it doesn't wiggle around. And that's how easy it was to put this project together with two things that I found in the dump. And you can imagine the possibilities with something like this. You can fill it full of flowers or even fruits and vegetables and display it on a table. Next project was this old light fixture, completely broken, was in a scrap metal bin, and I found this flower pot on the side of the road. So let's put this together. As soon as I saw this broken light fixture, I knew what I wanted to do with it. And I think it's an old fixture from probably the 70s, and it had a glass globe on the top, which was missing. It was probably broken. I'm going to take all of the wiring out of this and take it right down to just the metal pieces. I just used a pair of side cutters to cut away all of that electrical cord and any wiring that was on the inside. Took this outside and I sprayed it with some paint and primer spray paint in matte black, making sure to spray really well around the chain and that top bracket also. One key tip to becoming a successful repurposer and upcycler is to think creatively and see potential in it. Look beyond the obvious use of materials and objects and instead think about how you can transform and combine them in unique ways to create something new and useful. So I found this light fixture in the dump, the plant pot on the side of the road. I added a faux flower in the middle, and I've created a really unique, beautiful plant hanger that I absolutely love. And I've saved all of this from the landfill. Okay, would you have grabbed these two items? I've got a block of wood and an old pot lid. The pot was missing, but I have an idea of how I can upcycle these two items. I found both of these on the side of the road, and I'm going to give a fresh coat of my black homemade chalk paint on this block of wood just to perk it up because it was really faded and there was a few spots here and there that didn't have any paint whatsoever. Now I'm going to set it aside and let it dry completely. Now I've grabbed this graphic out of my Etsy store. It has a farmhouse feel. It's an old general store graphic. If you're interested in using this, you can go to the link down below in the description and grab it. It's a printable, downloadable graphic. And I'm just going to take my coffee stain. This is just instant coffee and a little bit of hot water. And I'm going to age this graphic. To speed it up, I'm going to use my heat gun. And that's how easy and fast it is to create some antique looking paper. And then I'm just going to take my ruler and I'm going to make a rough edge and then go back in with a little bit of that coffee stain and stain that bare paper. And we're going to decoupage this onto that block of wood. Now here's a little hack when you're decoupaging on how to eliminate some bubbles and wrinkles. When I am getting ready to decoupage, I like to put a light coat on top of that print first. And I'm just putting a light coat all over it. And then we're going to set it aside and let it dry before we decoupage it onto our project. I'm taking an 80 grit sandpaper and I'm going over this block of wood and I'm just kind of distressing it all around the edges just to give it a nice weathered look. I could have also used my candle wax method or my Vaseline method, and that would have given me a really good chippy look also. Now I have that bare wood showing, so I had some of that instant coffee stain left over and I'm just gonna go over that whole block of wood and it's just gonna give that bare wood where I sanded a more rustic, old looking tint. I let it soak for a few minutes and then I took a rag and I wiped off all of that extra coffee stain. I love the way that it looks. Now we're going to decoupage that label onto this block of wood. I'm putting on, again, a good coat of that Mod Podge matte because that's going to adhere it really well to the block of wood. And because we've already put a coat of that Mod Podge on the top, on the front of the graphic, I find it really helps when you're trying to avoid any bubbles and wrinkles. Give this technique a try because I think you'll be surprised how well it works. Once it's completely dry, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to put a coat of Mod Podge over the entire piece. Now you can also use polyacrylic, but for this project I chose to use my Mod Podge. Now remember that pot lid? Let's incorporate that into this project. Now some knobs on pot lids are riveted right on and they don't come out, but this one fortunately was just screwed on, so it was just as easy as unscrewing it and I'm going to screw it onto the top of this block of wood. Now, hang out for a second because you're going to see how I pull this all together, and you can see the potential of how you can make this for any type of season. This would be a great project if you can find things like this to turn into fall decor, Christmas decor, Easter decor, so many possibilities. Now I've got a ring from an old mason jar lid. I'm placing that in the middle with some E6000, making sure it's centered and exactly where I want it. I let it dry, and then I added a pillar candle. And all of this stuff was on the side of the road, destined to go to the dump. I've pulled it all together and I've made a really beautiful piece that would look great in a farmhouse kitchen or a cottage, or you can see the potential of so many different ways that you can do this project. Don't overlook things that you find on the roadside or at the dump or what people give you. Think outside the box and get creative. Let's save some stuff from ending up in our landfills.